like I was telling you, everybody who knows me knows that I'm a big Giants fan. Big Giants fan. Like I was telling you, the Giants have not been the same since you left. Unfortunately, man, you were a beast. Now, first here at City College, homecoming. So what's it been like just walking around here on the campus?
Man, it's been fun, man. Just seeing, all the alumni, meeting the president, and just seeing what the university, what the college stand for. And man, it seemed like it's a lot of good connections out here, man. I think it's a great college.
Yeah, yeah. I know. Growing up, I'm sure you heard a lot about Harlem and all that. So when you were playing here in the city, did you ever get a chance to come by Harlem much?
Oh yeah, man. I did. Man, I had a lot of signings. I would do stuff for the kids. I had a program called Helping Hands where we would give underprivileged kids meals to take home from school on the weekends. And I think if I want to say Harlem was a recipient of that, some kids in Harlem was a recipient of that as well.
That's great. You know what? One of the special things about sports is when you get to see guys like you who are players, former players who come to the community, and some of the kids get to see you all, and you all are like heroes to them, big heroes to them, and just your presence makes them feel incredible and makes their day, makes their year, can make their childhood can be a lasting memory. So what's that feeling like to be able to impact kids and just make them feel special?
That's one of the best feelings because that's what we do it for in a sense. All kids need a role model. I was a kid that grew up in a neighborhood, in poverty neighborhoods as well. So just to be able to give back to those kids coming from that, or just kids in any manner. You know what I mean? Because kids always need a role model, somebody to look forward to. I'm glad I could do that, and I'm glad I could be that for kids out there.
Yeah, so let me ask you, growing up, who were some of your role models that you looked up to?
Let's see. Well, I was in the Carolinas. I was down in Charlotte, so I was a big Panthers fan. Steve Smith from the Panthers, that was like my favorite receiver growing up, in Charlotte, watching him. Childhood, probably was how I had to say Randy Moss before I was like understanding the game and all I knew, you know what I mean? He was a household name when I was a kid, so I was born in Philly. I moved down North Carolina when I was 10 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah, and Randy Moss was one of my favorites, growing up as well. And okay, so you were in Philly until you were 10 years old. So did you become a sports fan of Philly teams during that time?
Nah, I was really just a kid when I was in Philly. Sports ain't picked up till I got with my dad down south.
Okay.
And that's when he threw me in football, and then basketball, track, the whole nine. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned growing up a Panthers fan, and you would do damage against them when you became a pro. So we'll get to that in a minute. But okay, so you played basketball. What was your experience like playing basketball and football in Carolina?
Man, it was fun. The Carolinas got some athletes, man. Growing up, man, I played from the top of the competition to the bottom of the competition, from traveling out of town, playing in the mountains all over North Carolina, traveling down to Florida to the beaches, just traveling and playing. So, man, I was heavy in sports. So I was always, every weekend I was doing something. I was always having to practice during the week, games on the weekend. I was very active.
Yeah, and Carolina's a big basketball state. Of course, Michael Jordan's from there. You went to UNC like Jordan. So how was your basketball experience, and how good were you in basketball?
I was. Anybody gonna say they were dope, right? But I would honestly say I think I was decent. I probably averaged about 12 to 15. Highest probably scored like high 30s. You know what I mean? But a couple colleges recruited me for both. But I committed to Carolina football before my senior season even started. So by the time my senior year came, I was locked in with football. So that's when I kind of started making that transition to just football only.
Got you. Did you play against anybody that we would know on the basketball court?
Yeah, CP3.
Wow.
Yeah, we ran across each other in the playoffs. He was a senior. I was a true freshman. Well, I was a freshman. Not a true freshman. It was in high school, but I was a freshman playing up on varsity, and we played against him in the playoffs. They beat us. And then pretty much everybody out of Charlotte, we had some big names. Y'all probably wouldn't know it, like, nationally or whatever, but we had a bunch of big names. Guys like Casey Rivers went to Clemson, Donnell Mack went to Memphis.
Okay.
You know what I mean? A bunch of, guys like that. But, yeah, man, we grew up hooping, though.
Yeah. And were there any guys that made the NFL on the football field that you played against?
Yeah, we'll play with my high school team, man. We put about 4 or 5 kids in the NFL. So I don't know if you heard of Muhammad Masquer. We got
Yeah,
drafted
yeah, yeah.
together, so we played at the same high school.
Okay.
He's a year ahead of me. Played at Georgia with Joe Cox.
Okay.
Played with Chris Leak. I don't know if you know
Yeah,
Chris
yeah,
Leak.
the quarterback.
We all come from the same high school, the same coach.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
So,
Oh, wow, wow.
yeah, I never lost a high school football game.
Really?
Yeah, my first time losing the game was when I got to college.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you all won the championship then in high school?
Every year.
Every year you won the championship?
We won undefeated. 9 straight years, 9 straight state championships.
Wow. Okay. Incredible. Okay. And so how did you end up at Carolina, and who were some of the other schools that were trying to get you?
Well, for me, little quick story. I ain't going into my senior year. I was still more so like, I don't know if I'm gonna do basketball, football. I really wasn't even no thought. I was just playing the sports, right? So my high school coach came to me one day and said, "Man, what college you want to go to?" You know what I mean? Because I was actually playing tight end too.
Oh, okay.
So he was like, I moved out to receiver for my senior year. And he was just like, "What school you want to go to?" And I was like, You know, I don't know. I wasn't really thinking about it. And he said, "What you think about North Carolina?" I said, "Ain't that the school Michael Jordan went to?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." He said, "I'm going to take you up there for a visit." And he took me up there for a visit, and John Bunning was the head coach at the time. And he pretty much was just like, "Hey, this kid is going to blow up. He's going to be the #1 receiver in the state by the end of his senior year. Y'all should offer him now, because if y'all don't offer him now, it's going to be too late. He could probably lead a state." And so they took his word, being that he was one of the most prominent coaches in our area, pushed a lot of kids through college and to the NFL prior to that. So they took his word, and I ended up being everything he said. I had like almost 2,000 receiving yards my senior year, 20 plus touchdowns. You know what I mean? And so they knew they made the right decision from then. And I just kind of stayed committed, because I didn't want to go back, because they was the first team to give me first school to give me an offer without even seeing my film. So you know what I mean? I never just decommitted. So I think Wake Forest might have came and offered me for football and basketball, but at the time I was just like, "Nah, I'm a Tar Heel."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, real quick, can you believe just how things have gotten now with the nil? Just like, it's great that the players are getting paid now, but it just seems like it's such a different, like every landscape is changing so much,
Yeah, it's like professional now, on a college level. It's good and bad, you know what I mean? It comes with its pros and cons, like anything. I think long as university have the steps in place for the kids to succeed with their NIL deals, because the worst thing that could happen is, right, these kids getting these millions in college, and then they get to the NFL and they're not making the same amount of money, and then they're in debt because of the taxes, because they didn't do the right thing with the money that they was getting. So I think long as universities have that in stage, so that it won't set the kid up for failure, I think it's all good.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I never heard anybody make that point before. So, okay, so how was it playing in the ACC against, the Florida States and all those other Clemson and those schools?
Man, the ACC was tough. Yeah, I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? I love the competition level in the ACC, especially going to play in Clemson. That was always fun. Virginia Tech, that was always fun. You know what I mean? So even the rivalries up the street, NC State, Duke, you know what I mean? That was always fun to beat up on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was there, and I want to give a shout out to a Tar Heel alum. He's one of my biggest supporters here at the station. His name is Dave German. He's big into the Carolina sports and all that. So Dave is always big on everything Tar Heels. Do you have a most memorable moment about your college career?
Probably my bowl game. Yeah, the bowl games would solidify me to get drafted into the first round.
And who was that against, and what did you do that game?
West Virginia, and I believe it might have been like 10 to 12 catches for 219 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns.
Nice.
It was a bowl record, and it was in Charlotte at the Panther Stadium. So like all my hometown was there. My last college game. So you know what I mean. It was probably the most memorable moment. And I had one of the most famous catches, catching the ball behind my back. Okay, yeah. I have seen that. You had the big hands and all that, and so now the Giants. Now 2009 draft is when you're drafted, and so that was after the year, the 2008 season. The Giants lost Plaxico Burress, and so now they need a big time receiver. So they draft you. You're in the same draft as Des Bryant too, right? No, Des was the next year.
Next year. Okay. So they draft you in 2009 into the first round. So just how did it feel to be drafted by the Giants at that point?
Oh well, all the mock drafts had me coming to New York, but at the same time you can't really feed into none of that. Being an athlete, I had the mentality of wherever I go, I'ma just play ball. You know what I mean? And I'm glad it was New York. You know what I mean? But I just had the mentality of wherever I go, I'ma play ball. I'ma leave my mark.
Yeah. Now, in 2009. You all, because the receiving core at that time, Steve Smith, the other Steve Smith, was there. He actually had a big year that year. I remember he had over 100 catches, and you had a stretch where you had 4 straight weeks where you had a touchdown, and you had like your first touchdown was like a 53-yard like screen and run, right? So what do you remember just about that first touchdown that you had?
Well, shoot, I had came back. That was like week 4, I believe, because the first game I had injured my toe.
Okay.
So I had to sit out the next 2 games and then heal up, and then I came back. I just remember wanting to hurry up and make an impact because I'm like, man, it's week 4. I got to get my stats. I got to get some stats. So,
yeah.
I mean? So I was just like, man, let me, get after it. And one of the best things I did was run after the catch. So
definitely.
It was a simple play, little screen.
Yeah.
And we got it in my hands quick, and I just took it to the house.
Yeah, now you were really good with the ball in your hands, run after catch, definitely, you guys had a lot of big-time playmaking receivers, and, like, I'm going to be honest, I never felt like you guys got enough credit for your playmaking ability. So you won the NFL Rookie of the Month in that first year. So how did it feel to get that honor?
Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome. Individual accolades is always awesome, but me, I was more of a team guy. I wanted to win the Super Bowl straight off the rip. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm ready to go to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? That's what I was looking forward to.
Yeah. Now that first year, you guys started off 5-0, and then the team had a fall off. And I remember like those last 2 games. That was the last year of the old stadium, right? And I remember it was like 2 bad losses, and everybody was all upset or whatever. So just as a rookie, how was that? First playing all those games, how did your body feel afterwards, and what was it like to just have that roller coaster? You all start off 5-0, so good, and then at the end it was such a bad ending for you guys.
Well, when I got drafted, man, we had a bunch of veterans. You know what I mean? I was like the young pup. You know what I mean? We had a bunch of veterans. Our offensive line, they was all there. You know what I mean? They won the Super Bowl. We had Brandon Jacobs and Maya Bradshaw, Eli. You know what I mean? Even Steve Smith. So my job was easy, really. You know what I mean? I didn't have to come in on no leadership role. I just had to do my part and play my role. And that's what was made it easier for me my rookie year. I was just like, all right, I could just focus on what I need to do, focus on my task, because we had a bunch of guys and a bunch of leaders in this locker room on the offensive side and defensive side of the ball. So when I came in, it was kind of just easy for me because all I had to do was focus on the ball.
And so now the next year, your second year, 2010, your first game, you had a big game, played against the Panthers, who you were a fan of growing up. And you had 3 touchdowns in that game, a monster game. I mean, so what do you remember about that opening game?
Scoring the first touchdown in the Giants' new stadium.
Right, okay. Yes. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's a trivia question. The first touchdown at the new Giants stadium, it's like Hakeem. Do you remember what kind of play it was?
Yeah, it was just a simple go route. I remember just telling Eli, because I had Captain Munderland on me, and we had history going back to college ball, so I was just like, Eli, I'm just going up top on him. Yeah, I had a height advantage, you know what I mean? He was good at breaking on routes and everything, so I was just like, man, I'm just run right by him every time and just throw it up top, you know what I mean? And that's just what I did.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you had 11 touchdowns that year. That was your career high. And, that was a good Giant team. But I remember the end of that one, you guys, had a little bit of a fall off. I remember that game against the Eagles and Michael Vick. And he had that great game. It's funny because you talk about Virginia Tech. I actually went to Norfolk State, right? So I'm a few years older than you. And so when I was at Norfolk State, Mike Vick was at Virginia Tech. So I became a big Mike Vick fan. I remember that 2010 game when you all had the big lead, and then they ended up coming back to beat you guys, and you all missed the playoffs by like that one game that year.
That punt return, right?
Yeah, Deshaun Jackson's punt return. Yeah. And Tom Coughlin, I remember him being upset at the kicker. Like, why did you kick it to him? I told you, Matt Dodge, right?
Right.
So, but Tom Coughlin, how was he as a head coach playing for him?
Tom Coughlin was a coach. You know what I mean? He excellent coach too. He had you well prepared. He had his staff.
well prepared. He was the leader that we needed. That's why I think we won that Super Bowl. It starts up top, what I mean? Let alone it starts with the organization, you know what I mean? Giants is a class organization, class act in everything that they do. And that trickles on down, you know what I mean? That trickled on down to the head coach, the coaching staff, and then on to the leaders and the players, right? So, with all that being said, man, he knew how to run the machine, and we just went to bat for him.
Nice. And 2010, I believe you also had a game where you had 12 catches. At that time, it was the franchise record for most catches in the game against Houston. So that was a big game for you as well. Now, 2011, you all won the championship that year, but you all actually are like 6-6. I think you all started off pretty good. Then you all like lost like 4 games in a row. You started off 6-2 that year, then lost 4 straight games. You were 6-6, and then you finished 3-4. And you had the big game at the end. You all against the Cowboys and against the Jets that last game. And you all finished 9-7. But what do you remember, Jess? Because that was like a real roller coaster where it seemed like you all weren't even going to make the playoffs. Then you finished strong, make the playoffs, had that last Sunday night game against the Cowboys and the Christmas Eve game against the Jets. So what do you remember just about just like that whole thing?
Just everybody clicking. We knew once we got in that mode and it was time to lock in that we would be able to do that. We had different guys that could step up at any moment. You know what I mean? It was just the luck of the draw. We had lost those 4 games, but we knew what we were capable of. We knew when we got in the playoffs what we was gonna do too.
Yeah. And you also you played Green Bay in the playoff, but you also played them late in that season. You had like 2 touchdowns in that game. You lost to them, I believe, by 3 points. So then you get to the playoffs. The Atlanta game, I remember your big touchdown, you catch and run against the Falcons, and do what you do, that big, long catch and run. That was all you, by the way, like a little 5-yard pass, and you ran for like 60, 70 yards. That was incredible. You all blew the Falcons out that game, your first ever playoff game. What do you remember about that?
Scoring the first touchdown in a playoff game in the Giants Stadium.
Yep. Again, made history right there. So the answer to the trivia question, you're on you answered for both. The first Giant playoff touchdown in the new stadium and the first touchdown period in MetLife. Cool, man. And then the next game against Green Bay, the Packers are the number 1 seed that year. They lost 1 game the whole season, I believe. And then you all blow them out. I remember you catch the Hail Mary touchdown at the end of the first half, right? And so you jump up over everybody, catch the touchdown. That was amazing. So what do you remember that moment being like?
Just everybody excited, and it's something that we practice every week. You know what I mean? We practice that every week. Like Coach Coughlin, that's why I said like he had us very well prepared for anything. We practiced that, and we would just get to our spots. We would jog through it before every Saturday. And get to your spots, get to your landmark, get to your spots, get to your landmark. And so it was just really like practice, you know what I mean? And one thing about me, when the ball up there, they know I'm at least attempt to go get it.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So I seen the ball, and I was just like, I ain't seen nothing else.
Yeah. And then, of course, you all played the 49ers that next week in the NFC Championship game. That was a very physical game, went to overtime. I remember, like, Eli was, like, kept getting, like, taking a pounding. I remember thinking in that game, just don't turn the ball over, because he was getting hit so hard. And so, but, he did not. And you all went to overtime, and you all, got it done. I just saw a touchdown pass where Eli threw to Mario Manningham, the first touchdown that you all had in the game, and you all scoring and celebrating and all that. But that was an amazing game. What do you remember about that one?
Man, tough, just being tough.
Yeah.
Like it was like a monsoon. It was raining. The field was muddy. The ground was muddy. It was like dirty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just a hard-nosed sport game. You know what I mean? That's just when I think about that San Fran game, I'm just like, yeah, that was a game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because if you think about it, we played just about in every condition that whole playoff run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I believe the first playoff game was snowing in New York, right?
Okay.
So it was cold. Then we get to Green Bay, and it's cold, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Always cold in Green Bay.
Then we get to San Fran, and it's raining crazy and humid. You know what I'm saying? And then we get to the Super Bowl playing the Dome.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we weathered the storm, literally throughout the whole run.
Right. And you played in Indianapolis in that Super Bowl and against the Patriots. And so what do you remember just about that whole Super Bowl week and that game and becoming champions?
The practice, that practice week, I think, man, we were so locked in. I only think not one ball touched the ground.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's how, like you could hear a pin drop.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was the best week of practice that we had by far.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like by far.
Okay, by far. And how was it just running out on that field, all those fans, and being able to, wow, I'm in the Super Bowl and just playing in that game?
Well, for me personally, everybody have their own, personal experience. But for me personally, it was like, man, I'm in a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like this is what I've been playing this game my whole life for, and I'm 23 years old, I'm third year in the league, and I'm here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then it's like sometimes you take it for granted too, because you be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be right back next year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So after we won, I was more so like, yeah, we coming back next year to just defend it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But the business take off and run its course and do what it do. But I'm glad that I was a part of it.
Yeah, and how was it? What was it like? There have not been too many New York City teams to be able to be celebrated at the Canyon of Heroes since then. So what was it like to be able to be a part of that parade and receive the love from the city?
Man, that was the best part. You know what I mean? Like seeing that parade and going through and seeing all the people throwing tissue out the buildings in New York, man, and the blocks, they just chasing the floats and all of that. Man, that was one of the best experiences.
How was it being a part of that receiving corps? Because I always felt like you and Mario Manningham and Cruz, I felt like all three of you guys were excellent and dynamic, and I felt like Eli had three big weapons with you guys, and the running backs too, who you mentioned. What was it like just being a part of that receiving crew, and do you guys still talk at all?
Oh yeah, we all tight. Yeah, we all tight. Stay busy though. We got our lives now with kids, the whole nine, and working and all that. So, but man, we all still tight. You know what I mean? I think I just talked to Manningham a couple weeks ago, chiming with Cruz. We always see each other during the season because we be working and stuff. So, Eli, Bradshaw, I see Bradshaw all the time. I see him the most. Me and him link up the most because he come down through the Carolinas a lot.
Nice.
So we get out there on the golf course and stuff out there. So, we all pretty tight.
Yeah, I mean, Amar Bradshaw, he was excellent. I always felt like, it was just a great, talented team. The running backs, receivers, defense, all that. And, of course, Eli there, playing his part. And, the next year, I know week 2, I remember, first of all, the first game was against the Panthers in 2012. I remember that. And then week 2, I remember you and Victor Cruz both going off against Tampa Bay. And you had, I think, your career highest in receiving yards, like 109-something yards in that game. And you all won that game. What do you remember just about that day?
Man, that's the game where I was coming back that season from my foot, and then compensating for my foot, I messed my knee up.
Okay.
On that last catch.
The end of that game.
Yeah, the end of that game. So
and you went out of bounds. You were on the sideline.
on
coming out of bounds.
Yeah. So after that, man, then that knocked me down for about 3-4 weeks.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then just shaking back after that. You know what I mean? Just rushing, getting rushed back on the field, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, man. And now I know you ended up playing in Indianapolis in 2014, and you played with Andrew Luck, that year, that was his best season. He had 40 touchdowns, his highest touchdown total of his career. And you all even got to the AFC Championship game that year, lost to the Patriots, who won the Super Bowl that year. But, and also, playing there, that was where you won the Super Bowl for the Giants, so that was your home stadium for the year. So what was that experience like?
It was cool. Colts organization was cool. I gave him a year. You know what I mean? I gave him a year. But my heart was always in New York.
Yeah. Do you remember? I know you had a touchdown in the first or second playoff game against the Chiefs that year. Does that stick out to you at all?
I think it was the Broncos.
Okay. Right, against the Broncos. Yeah,
the Broncos.
Okay.
And then, the Broncos, right?
Yeah, against the Broncos. Yep. But like I said, it's not important. All about the Giants. Now, so like I said, the Giants. Giants really since you left, since the last Super Bowl have had a lot of hard years. They really haven't a lot of rough years. So they're trying to get things together right now. Just what do you see the Giants at right now? They just had the draft and all that.
I think they did good in the draft. I think they addressed what they needed to address position-wise. It's all about going out there and then, doing it and getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, everything could look good on paper till it's time to play and put them helmets on. So,
Yeah. How do you feel about Malik Neighbors? He's a very talented guy, and what do you think about him?
I like Malik.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, he tough. Yeah, he tough. I think he can get the job done. Put some nice pieces to complement him, around him, and I think he'll, excel.
Yeah. Who are some of the receivers in the NFL who you like to watch, and is there anybody who reminds you of yourself?
I was like one of a kind, really. So, you know what I mean. But nah, I think right now, or the receivers that I like right now, I like De'Ami Brown.
De'Ami Brown.
He was with the Commanders.
With the Commanders,
yeah.
Okay,
He's with Jacksonville now.
Yeah.
That's because he's alma mater, he's Tar Heel and all that.
Tar Heel.
You know what I mean?
Okay,
So, Yep. Him. Obviously, I like Malik. You know what I mean? Giants core Wandale.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Those because I'm a Giant. You know what I mean? Those my guys. Who else? The kid, he was a rookie last year, I think. Puka Nacua.
Oh, you Puka Nacua?
Yeah, he do work. Yeah, he do work.
Yeah.
He caught my eye last year.
Yeah, he's nice.
Before Diggs got his knee hurt, you know what I mean. He was moving and grooving. Hopefully, he come back, in the same manner. It's a lot. Man, pretty much everybody that's on the roster got talent, man. It's just about if they being used or not.
Right.
So,
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. It's about opportunity. I feel like a lot, and especially in pro sports, it's about opportunity. Now, I got to ask you about the current situation at North Carolina. New head coach, Bill Belichick. It was a surprise to seeing him take the job. So now he's the head coach there. So what do you think about the prospects of that?
I know he know how to win games.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what I mean? I know he know how to win games.
Mm-hmm.
So, as long as we win games, everybody be happy.
No doubt. And, also the greatest Giant of all time probably is a Tar Heel, Lawrence Taylor. So, did you ever get a chance to be around him much?
Oh, yeah, LT, that's my dog.
Yeah.
Okay. We kicking it all the time. Every time he up here, we be chill.
Yeah. Abdul Carter got to chill, man. He wants to wear number 56, but, only LT can wear that, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't think LT going for that.
No, but I think he's going to do, a great job, man. So, last couple of questions for you. Do you follow the NBA playoffs at all? What's going on right now?
That's honestly the only time I really start watching the basketball, because the NBA seasons be so long, and then certain players don't play every night.
Exactly.
And the competitiveness don't pick up until playoffs.
Yeah.
So I've been watching, and then I grew up playing with Steph Curry.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So
wow.
me and him grew up playing together. His dad had his team. We played for the Charlotte Stars when we was like 12. You know what I mean? So we yeah.
So do you ever talk to him still at all?
Shoot, I hollered at probably about, I think we crossed paths down in the Carolinas maybe about 2 years ago, something like that. But that's his dad though. You know what I mean? His dad, then his younger brother, he still played for Seth. He played.
For Charlotte.
You know what I mean? For Charlotte.
Yeah. So did you, when you were playing with Steph as a kid, did you like think that he could be an NBA player?
Oh yeah, he was tough. He was always tough. Yeah.
Okay.
He was always tough. He could always shoot.
Yeah.
Played defense in the end. Yeah, he was a hustler. He played hard. Wow,
that's incredible. Now he surprised me, because when I saw him at Davidson, I was like, he's Del Curry's son, so his height. But I looked at him, I thought he was like a little looked like a kid and all that, but he definitely proved me completely wrong.
We played basketball down there in Charlotte.
Yeah. Wow. So Steph Curry was your teammate in youth basketball. That's amazing, man. So last question for you: how about the Knicks? Do you watch any of the Knicks at all?
Yeah. I've been checking them out.
Did you get a chance to go to the Garden when you were playing for the Giants?
Yep.
Okay.
Been a couple. Carmelo, that's my dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you got a chance to be at the Garden, and so the Knicks, they start their playoff series against Boston. Do you have a favorite basketball team or not really?
Nah, I ain't really got no favorite. I'm a fan of excitement.
Yeah.
At this point, as long as the player come in and make the games exciting, that's what I watch it for.
And John Wall is from Carolina too. Mm-hmm. Do you know John Wall at all?
Nah, not personally.
Got you. Okay, hey, Hakeem, Knicks man, thank you so much for coming in. I really enjoyed this. It's been a pleasure, and you're the man, like I said.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man, the Giants have not been the same since you left. All right, folks, so this right here, Hakeem Nicks, member of the Giants' last Super Bowl team, Super Bowl 46, the 2011 season. Hakeem, man, thank you so much, and great talking to you.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, we're out.